So nice to see your beautiful face, Steve.
Let's see here. It is 11:30. Let's get started. First of all, I want to
12:30
say,
here. Sorry.
what's that?
12:30 here.
12:30 your time. Yeah. I wanted to, first of all, thank everybody. We still have people joining in, but it's fun to see the response, and it's fun to see a lot of old friends popping up for both Stacy and I. I wanted to first explain why this is our topic for this specific webinar. I am having something pop up on my screen. I'm going to try to fight through it. Um, I have people ask me all the time since I started hanging out with Randy and Kate and Sarah, and including Stacy and Megan. What does Acuity do? Are you a buying group? Are you a consolidator? Do you want to buy my business? There are all these things, and it's been kind of easier for me to tell you what Acuity isn't. Acuity isn't a buying group. Acuity isn't a consolidator. Acuity is a business management company, and I don't understand how to explain that. We talk about elevator talks in my previous career in sales, and it's not an easy, quick story to tell. So I thought the best thing to do was to bring somebody in who's kind of gone through the process and can speak about it clearly and kind of talk soup to nuts about what the entire Acuity experience is, which brings us to the introductions of myself and Stacy O'Brien. But first, before I do that, I want to ask everybody that's online, if you have questions, would you please just put them in the chat, and Sarah Richart will monitor those questions, and we'll try to answer them as best we can. And if we don't have time for that, we're going to do our best to keep this at an hour and respect everybody's time. But if you put your questions in the chat, then we will be happy to either answer them on this webinar or get back to you with that information. So first, I'll start by introducing myself to you, because some of the people have followed or signed up for this webinar based on my invitations or Acuity's invitations or Stacy's invitations. So you may not all know all of us. My name is Steve Richards, and I've been working with Acuity Hearing for a few months now, and I'll say I've kind of been hanging around with them for probably really a year, just kind of learning about what they do. But I'm hanging out with them because they're very good friends of mine. Randy Schomborn was a mentor of mine, and I had a 28-year career at Starkey. I retired as the executive in charge of revenue for North America. I was executive of vice president of North American sales, and I retired in 2020 from that company, and didn't think that I'd ever work again. But this has proven to be fun, and so that's why I'm here, and I'm excited to be with you today. Stacy, who are you?
Well, I just want to say you are the Steve Richards. That's why I have you on my phone. I'm so excited to be here. I just love you. I love everything about Acuity, and yeah, thank you for asking me to come share, because I try to, have a pulse, and I'm pretty involved with audiology on social media, and I get messages a lot about, because I, put stuff out there, and it's just so wonderful that you're doing this, because maybe, things that I've gone through can help other people collapse time, and give, maybe there's a few nuggets in here, because I feel like there are a few nuggets.
Well,
Yeah.
tell me about your professional, what's your origin story in audiology, Stacy?
Okay. Well, this was my dream, and I went back to school later in life. It stemmed from when my daughters were little. Each had one had a major issue. The other one was tested as an infant as part of one of my good friends who was completing her doctoral studies in audiology, and I fell in love with it. And that daughter is 30 years old now, so it was 30 years ago. And it took me almost 20 years to get back to school to pursue my dream. And I knew going in, because I was 40 when I started back to audiology school, doctorate. I had enough experience in life to see how everything I had done in work, I had eventually ended up starting my own business from it. Not that I set out to do it, but I would just see a better way, I thought, to service the consumer. Anyway, so I knew going into audiology that I definitely want to have a private practice, especially where healthcare is involved. I knew I would not want anyone dictating how I did or didn't help a patient. So I took some MBA classes when I was in my doctorate, and got approval for that. And then that kind of comes along where I met you, because I needed some help hearing aid wise. I honestly, I had no idea when I went back for audiology that hearing aids were a thing with audiology. So I'm starting to learn in my first year, and I'm seeing that they're life changing. And but my university, I wasn't seeing where we were getting a lot of help that way. So I just went to search all the manufacturers, and I found Starkey had this great student program, and then they had an entrepreneur program for those interested, and Starkey it was just a wonderful program. And that's where I had the opportunity to talk with you, who I consider, as you know, and I'll remind you, a great mentor, and just beautiful, because you really,
Oh, stop.
yeah, you really were the first person, besides my father, who was like, you're gonna be we need to make sure you are helping patients, without worrying about Starkey or any of that. And of course, I love Starkey, and was passionate to work with them. But anyway, and then about the same time, that's where I saw Randy, because I volunteered as a student at the Starkey Expo. I think it was 2014, 12 or something like that. Anyway, and I saw Randy up on stage, and something in me was like, you've got to talk with him. So I later, I just kept asking everybody. I found out he was in this private reception. I went in and crashed the reception, and found Randy, and then from that moment on, he was so gracious. He allowed me to fly out after I started my clinics, and my first clinic, and see how he was doing like 60 or 70 clinics. I don't even remember. I just thought, how in the world? And he spent a whole day with me, and that was just huge. And then after that, would allow me to bug him anytime I had some questions.
Well,
So
that's good information. I think now is probably a good time for me to jump in here, because I've mentioned Starkey. I know, Randy worked at Starkey and did business with Starkey for a long time. And Stacy, of course, you are a legend at Starkey. I want to let everybody know that you don't have to be a Starkey customer to do business with Acuity. I will admit that I am biased, and I love the company and the people there. However, we do have customers, whether they do business with people that compete with Starkey or Beltone or Miracle Air or whoever. We are interested in working with people who are interested in providing the very best care for their patients. So it's not a limiting thing. However, if anybody ever is interested in doing business with Starkey, we know people. So let's go on with kind of the next slide. This is Acuity's statement that we make to all our customers. We want people to thrive and have fun. I'll let you all read it while Stacy is talking. But Stacy, tell me about, you came to Acuity in 2019 or 20. Tell me about the state of your business. Why did you reach out, and how did you reach out? And just kind of tell me your kind of the origin story of you interacting with Acuity.
Yes. So, like I shared, I'd been in touch with Randy over the years, and at the end at 2020, beginning of 2020, I was doing some vestibular stuff, and I I say I tricked him fair and square, but I think he tricked me. But I asked him to come out and take a look at everything. I was also at a point where um, I was hitting a ceiling. I had 3 clinics at the time. I was like 3.5 million, and I could not get past that ceiling. I was stuck. And honestly, I did not want to grow anymore. My heart wanted to grow and help more people, but physically, I was working weekends, doing business follow up on clinic care, working nights. All the other owners on here, and I know I'm preaching to the choir, but literally I couldn't figure out why I was stuck. There was a problem, and I'd been praying for several years for God to bring in help, and I just started to feel like maybe this is it. So I had remembered somebody had told me, "Hey, one good clinic is just as good as three, three
Right.
average clinics," and I was losing patient care standards. Thought I was hiring passionate audiologists and clinicians, and the problem is, they're all great people, and I love everyone. So it was like very difficult to figure out, um, anyway, there were a lot of different issues. So Randy came out. He flew out with Jim Wilson, which and we, just so much fun. We did car karaoke. I just remember going, um, it's gonna be okay, and they hadn't said 2 words yet.
Yeah.
Um, but the state of the business was I was not having. I was sacrificing my soul, my home life, for these 3 children, 3 clinics, and I needed help. So,
Yeah, that's I think it's probably safe to say that you had stopped having fun. I like the book E-Myth. When people start their business, and I used to say this a lot to customers at Starkey, and especially young audiologists, they don't teach you these things in grad school. They teach you how to solve hearing problems, but they don't teach you how to run a business, and they certainly don't teach you how to scale a business. Um, One of the lines in that book, I forget exactly what it was. Or what it is. I'm paraphrasing, but it says, when you go into business for yourself, and so many people in our business do, they go into retail because they're an audiologist or a hearing professional, and they're doing it for somebody else. And they figure, well, I'm going to do it my way, and I'm going to treat patients the way I want to treat them, and I'm going to open my own store. Well, that's really good. You're doing it because you like taking care of broken ears, as Bill would say. Um, um, that's fine and dandy until you have to start employing people and you have to start expanding your footprint because marketing is so expensive. You can't just have one store and be scalable in a big town. You've got to have multiple stores so that you can capitalize on your marketing expense. They don't teach you how to scale it. That's where Acuity comes in. Um,
yeah, can I cut in there too?
yes.
When you originally asked me if I would talk with you about this on a webinar, we were talking about some questions, and I think, immediately I knew Acuity was different because, other people had reached out, big buying groups that I know a lot of colleagues use, and they had these quick fixes. Like they hadn't even seen my operation, and it was like there's a checklist that everyone's sharing or something that's like, try this, and it was, I just stopped taking those calls because it meant nothing. Like, okay, I feel like I've done all these things, and you have. So when Acuity came out, before coming out, before the team came for an on-site, they asked me for my access to my database, which I gave. And I'm going off of, so KPIs. I strongly believe in KPIs. I use an EMR system, and I've used a couple different ones. And the problem was I was leaving my clinicians to self-report whether they were an opportunity or not. And this time, I think I had 8 or 9 audiologists, plus I had 3 satellite clinics on top of the 3 clinics that were in ENTs that I employed the audiologist. And so everyone's self-reporting, and I'm looking at the data, and it was so glaring to me. And yet I was like, how did I miss this? So the KPIs that I was using were coming from an EMR system, electronic medical record system, that was built on helping clinicians write better reports. And it has to also have these other options, so you know how you're doing, numbers wise. But I always felt stuck there, and I felt like I was crazy, basically. Why are the numbers showing that we have, we're getting these patients in, but they're not opportunities, or we're not closing them? And you guys Acuity brought in their own proprietary, they funneled the numbers and done a deep dive on the KPIs. And I saw for the first time that I was providing half of the revenue, and I was one of like 8 or 9 clinicians. And that is literally when the light bulb went off. That's why I'm stuck, because I physically can't see any more patients, and I was bringing in a lot of the revenue. And how they looked at that information, what Acuity told me from all the, I don't know, I don't think we have anything here to show on the KPI report that everyone gets every morning, but the detail that went in, I was blown away. And then all the different ways that you can, because if you can't track it, you can't improve it. So now we have all these different, very different ways to look at a business. And I knew, and they assured me, don't get overwhelmed. This is not a quick fix. You're in
Yeah,
this
what
for.
was that impression like? Were you just like, oh my goodness, how do I do this? Because again, going back to the E-Myth, it's people that go into business for themselves. They often find, because they're working for themselves, they don't really have a business. They've created a job for themselves, and many times it feels like you're working for a lunatic because you're just meeting yourself every day, leaving when it's time to come back in, and working Saturdays and weekends, and you're not really building a business or a life for yourself. You're in a prison. It's a different. But what was your first impression?
Well, amazing. I knew, when they told me this is not a quick fix. Like, if you want somebody to come in and do things for you, uh, that's not us. We're in it for the long haul. This is, repeatedly, Randy would tell me, this is a 7-year march. Um, and a business worth investing this time and effort in is the type of business that's going to stand the test of time, that's not only going to survive but thrive. And up to that point, I felt like I was in survival mode. And so my first impression, when it took the pressure off, um, letting me know that this is not quick. You there's so many things to work on here, but how do you eat an elephant? Like, literally one bite at a time. And so they have, like, I can see on the screen all these different facets, and that's exactly what it was. All the KPIs were broken down into different facets. And it was very, it was just such a relief. I knew I was with the right people. Um, I think we're gonna get to it, but within 6 months of just doing the first thing that we started working on, significant change
Well, so
already.
and I want to touch on that too. So what you're looking at on the screen is our 5 areas of strategic focus, and it's administration. Um, there's so much about patient care and operations of, what happens every time somebody comes into one of our offices for any reason. How do we handle that? Marketing obviously is a very important tool that we use. Financial control is a very important tool. All of these 4 areas lead towards really enhancing your leadership abilities to drive growth and change in your business. These are the areas that we focus on. Typically, at Acuity, we like to focus on all 5 of them, but they're actually areas that you can subscribe to. If it's just marketing that you feel like your business needs, or you don't want to deal with administration, you don't need HR support or recruiting or financial control. It's not an all or nothing proposition, but it is a 7-year march. And the most important thing is in a 7-year march. I was talking with a friend the other day who knows a lot about this, and he said that the problem with the 7-year march is you might trick yourself into thinking you've got 7 years to start marching. You need to start marching today to drive change, because it really does take a long time. It really is similar to eating an elephant. So why don't you tell us, Stacy, what was the first thing you did?
Right. Well, so there was a lot of information there, and I was very appreciative of it. One thing that I think owners, I see a lot, and I know for myself that I struggle with is we want to pay people well, and yet the business needs to get in new patients. And every day, even if you're successful, treating patients with hearing loss is a losing win, because maybe if you're lucky, you'll a third, or a half will say yes to better hearing. So how you pay people was always in my mind. I always wanted to pay people well. I love everyone, and I wanted them to. So having a way that HR made sense for the company and the clinician was huge. Acuity guided me through that, and something glaring from the original visit and KPIs was I was very over in percentages of what I paid my people to overall revenue. So they helped show me some ways to change that. And actually, it was life. All of these tools are life saving for owners and managers, and just not having to reinvent the wheel. Or I made some decisions with that, which freed up. Actually, the clinicians made more money in this way. So that was huge. So I started to look at that. And also, I looked at, with that, how I hired, how I recruited, how I onboarded. Acuity did all of that for me. Oh my gosh, there's so many things to do as an owner, and hiring people, and then them not working out, we all know, is such a financial strain, a time constraint. Acuity's plan on how you onboard, we actually y'all called it long boarding, and it's so true. And that was hugely beneficial. So that, and the other thing started working. Well, that was kind of behind the scenes on KPIs, but the clinical part that we started working on was, we started with cerumen management. Like, it's going to sound crazy, but it was so good. And we think cerumen management, we do cerumen management, but doing it on a big screen, with the patient watching it. I likened it to surgery, except the patient is watching you and they're not numb. And so while we focused on that clinical aspect, just that one little aspect, and there's a million other that are coming behind it, but remember, like we said, it's a 7-year march. um, Behind the scenes on team culture and mission statement. I have my mission statements 3 sentences long on the walls in every practice. No one knew them but me. And if I had a busy day, I maybe couldn't recite them word for word. So Acuity helped me get it succinct and 6 words that everyone could resonate with that we were doing. And the ship just started to turn. The momentum and the support from Acuity, those early days, I was calling Kate and Randy quite a bit, like, okay, here's the situation. And they were walking me through how to handle it. And the HR piece was just a lifesaver. You know, Megan having all the processes, handling the vetting of the applicants, huge. And then, you know, as much as I wanted her to handle, she would. So
So
very good.
getting back to what people are looking at on this screen, I think it's important. You mentioned, one of the first things you learned was you were paying people incorrectly. You also learned that while you had people that you were paying quite well, they weren't generating revenue. And it's really easy to like people. It's really hard to make tough decisions when people are holding your business back. But I want people to look at this screen and realize that every one of those bullet points, these aren't just bullet points on a screen. Acuity actually has deliverable resources, recorded videos, materials, and collateral that come along with our strategy development and our marketing packages. So you don't just go into your business and say, "Oh my goodness, I need to change everybody's pay." That's not going to go over very well. You might realize that you need some turnover in your staff, but you want to be very careful in how you present that. So the best thing to do is to get up above your business and actually identify these are our core values. This is our mission statement. And then every decision that you make, you drive through those core values. Stacy, can you tell me a little bit about what that process was like?
Well, you bring up such a great point that I kind of forgot about, but was a huge pivotal point. Like one of the first things that we talked about, what Acuity talked to me about, was if I had thought about not about myself getting out of patient control, not like immediately all at once done, but so I could better work on my business. Like I knew I wanted to go to the other locations and work with the clinicians there and the admin staff. You pay all this money for marketing, and you have people in charge of the phone, and if they haven't been trained well, it's done, you know. And um, so I knew what I wanted to do. And when they said, have you thought about, you know, stepping away from full-time patient care so that you can better work on the business, I, it was like, I would love to, I love patient care, like, you know, but how I could not even fathom how
Probably
that would.
felt like a pipe dream.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we all know as owners and founders that you have patients that I'm just thinking of Mr. and Mrs. So and so. They're never going to let me go. And yet Acuity has done this, and they had a plan. And within 2 years, I was full, you know, it tapered off, but within 2 years, I was fully out of patient care. And I thought that would be, you know, there's no way. But then my love became building up the team. So I would travel around to all the different clinics and work with the different clinicians with tools that Acuity provided. And oh my gosh. And remember, I was bringing in over half of that 3.9 million, you know, or almost half. So I just thought there's no way. So literally, I know where you're going to show show the numbers here because it's almost unbelievable. but but the support and the pathway to do that, even, if it's not full time out of patient care, but just the 1 day, 2 days, how do you do that? How do you transition the team? How do you train the admin on what to say when they call for Dr. O'Brien? Oh no, I'm only seeing her. I mean, I had patients that would only come in to see me if I brought my dog. I'm thinking like, how are they? So that was, that really is a huge blessing, because during that process, when we talked originally, you had asked me this question about what would be like the most valuable part that Acuity contributed to your business. And that question had me thinking, because there's so much, but honestly, it's not quantifiable, because I got my weekends back. I was done many times 5:30, 6 at the latest. Like, I was having family dinners at 6. That was unbelievable. I was taking a vacation. Like, what? Without worry, because the process was so good that it took the privilege, the burden off of me, the owner. One more thing, and then I'll let you talk, Steve. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay.
It just had another thought. Like, for the years up before working with Acuity, I never liked having all the information myself, and the team didn't have it. Like, we all had our goals, but I was the one receiving the reports, and then I was
Mm.
responsible for sharing them in meetings, and that was fine. But again, it's like, I want to hire people, and if we're setting goals, I want them to be able to see where they are on the goal. And Acuity helped create the intranet for my organization. They also, every morning, through the intranet, every clinical staff had access to the full report, where we are on goal, what each clinic did, what each clinician was tracking, how much we needed to meet goals, how many patients we were helping. And so it takes the burden, which is not, it's a privilege, but to where everyone is aware. And Acuity started talking about my team like a professional sports team. And I loved that analogy, because you don't go out as a professional sports team and you don't huddle before the game. Of course you huddle, you game plan, you strategize. And Acuity brought quarterly strategy meetings where they had me and my leadership team out of the office for 2 days working on the practice. And each clinical team every morning would huddle with um, just tools. And so we really, that you can't quantify the peace of mind that allows an owner to spread around the privilege of this business of helping people.
That's awesome. Tell me about really when you started to notice a significant change in your business. When did it click for you that, hey, this is working? Was it when you took your first vacation? When was it?
So it was 6 months in. So remember, I started working with Acuity at the beginning of 2020. We all know what happened, a few months later with the pandemic and closing down. So I had asked Acuity, don't bill me for 6 months, give me a break. And they were gracious. Like, Acuity, they said, you have happy payment patients, you will have happy payments. And that's so true. And that's how Acuity operates. They're slow. Of course, they're in it. I'm not saying they don't want to get paid. I'm just saying that's not their primary focus. So they agreed to wait 6 months, and I will never forget the 6 months. We were looking. They had flown in. We were had been to Palm Coast looking at some properties, and it was dark, late in my Port Orange parking lot practice. So they had rented an SUV because we had multiple people there, and getting all the stuff out. They open the laptop, and we're at 6 months. I know this is coming, and I see what I owe them. And I am so excited. I can't even believe it because I know if I owe them that, I know what the practice has done. And I have been watching the accounts. So I knew the accounts were growing and I'm reading the reports, but I think at that moment it hit home like, oh my, and that was only 6 months in, and that was only doing cerumen, starting focusing clinically on cerumen management. Well, although we have, they had all these other things, and team culture with the mission statement. So it did not take a lot to turn around profitability, because it was not very profitable at all, hardly. You'll see. I think you have the P&Ls coming,
Yeah,
right?
that'll be the next slide, but I'm going to let people sit on the edge of their seats for a minute. You've mentioned cerumen management a couple of times, and I can imagine that there's a lot of people online that are like, "Well, what's that all about? We do that or we don't do that." And really, I want to take it right back to where you're on top of your business. When you're identifying differentiating strategies in your business, you identify it as two-handed cerumen management. Nobody walks out of there without getting their ears clean, because that's something that you can do different than Costco. That's something that you can do different than and if you don't actually do it, then you're not providing a differentiating activity. So we like two-handed cerumen management. We like VOSU, verification of speech understanding. There are other things that we do, but let me ask you this. Were
Well,
there any surprises when you look at this screen, good or bad? What were some of the things that were more difficult to address? Or easier to address. And I want you to speak a little bit to one of Acuity's core values, which is we show up.
uh,
Explain, talk a little bit about that. We
okay,
have time,
so
Stacy.
oh gosh. Okay. Well, honestly, I'm this passionate audiologist, and I'm invested in the equipment, and we're doing real ear, we're doing all this. The surprise to me was that patient care improved when I started working with Acuity for two reasons. One, it was we had a documented, they came with a documented process, and I was able to input and fine tune things, particular to my clinics. But man, when every patient is getting the very best, and you can train to the very best, and you have documentation for every patient, our reviews and referrals went up. Uh, More physician referrals, more patient referrals, Google reviews, because the process there we weren't leaving it to chance. Every bit was trained. Like you mentioned, they had training videos, so all my clinicians could not only um, get help from me training them, but they also had training videos on how to do specific parts of the patient process. And also the surprise, what you mentioned, showing up, that
Yeah.
was unbelievable. Um, that really, I even said, I don't know how you can scale Acuity, because you guys spend so much time with me. I don't know how, but you do, you figure it out. And you guys, I know I've referred quite a few people that are just so grateful too to work with you, because the different, you show up, you answer your phone. Like I said, early on in the working with Acuity, I had questions, like situations that I hadn't had before, and I, would dial Kate or Randy or Sarah or Megan, and even after hours or emails, um, that's really refreshing, and it's not out there. And I feel like I've tried to work with, or I've talked with a lot of people in different, buying groups that say they're going to help. And um, anyway, this was really a differentiating factor, and it collapsed time. I mean, it within 6 months to go from, 3 or 4% profitable to they'll see on the next screen is incredible, like mind blowing to me.
Yeah. Well, without further ado, I'll touch, well, without further ado, with just a little bit more ado, I'll say one of the ways that we show up is we get into a meeting rhythm. And really, I think that one of the biggest benefits, not just the collateral that we can drill down to on this screen, that's very important, but really just having you as a business owner have an accountability coach and an executive leadership coach, people who have been there, done that, got the t-shirt. They know what you're going through. They've led teams and they've driven change in the exact same in the exact same business space that you're doing it. So,
Well, and you
yeah,
said that too in the beginning, the meeting rhythms,
yeah.
with the leadership team, and then the meeting with me weekly, and then the practice manager. Those meeting rhythms in the beginning that were quite, they were able to taper off to every other week, but different department meetings was huge. And then y'all encouraged, because as we're moving and shaking, then me and my practice manager decided, you know what, we need a morning huddle every morning. So we were meeting at 7:30 every morning. Just, once you get in rhythm, it's 5 minutes. We know exactly the agenda, and the meetings were, I mean, the way that Acuity says to design, they've got the agenda to the meeting. So we're celebrating, we're ending good. It just, prior to that, my staff meetings, I would allow for questions and answers, and sometimes it would just, it's like walking into a patient room and saying, why are you here? You hand over your white coat. No, you're leading the patient every bit of the way. Acuity has resources for everything, even every single meeting agenda. I mean, it's just so good.
So as we look at this snapshot, 2019, 2020, 2021, and 2024, there are several things that pop out to me. I'll go through a few of them and then ask Stacy to just kind of talk about the experience. 2019, at the end of the year, I think you had been trending at 3.2 is what you had told me, but you wound up the year at 3.9 top line revenue. Cost of goods, 33%. Personnel expense, 33%. Marketing expense, 3%. And G&A at 28%. For a total operating income of 4%. And I want to kind of explain to people that this is a P&L for what we typically run into. But here's something else that we look at when we see these. A lot of times, people say, they look at this and they say, well, I have a business that's profitable at 4%. But here's what wasn't happening. Stacy wasn't paying herself fairly as a clinician. You should be able to run your business and pay yourself for the work that you do in your business and still have 20% profitability left over. That's what we are looking for, so that you have 10%, so that you can take back your investment of everything that you did and put on the line as an owner, and then have 10% of that so that you can turn it around and reinvest in your employees or your business or your footprint, or taking care of your patients. So this initial snapshot is interesting to me. And I would question, if I was just seeing this for the first time, the validity of it, because she's providing half of the revenue to the business and she's not paying herself for that revenue generation. 2020, the business goes up $700,000. It goes up to 23% profitability during COVID. And Stacy, I also know that during that time, you cleaned house, girl. Tell me about that.
Well, we had, so yes, this was an amazing time. You know, uh, it was it was a lot of decisions were being made. I had information. Now I have KPIs that were showing me who needs work, and I really, tried to work on the team as best as possible. And when you start to see numbers, like I just want to talk really to um, you know, I just love audiologists, clinicians who have this heart for hearing healthcare. And then you got to hire people because your dream's expanding, you're doing good, and you hire and, yo, good, in this many cases, you're an audiologist. We agree. Yeah, okay, you're professional, you're passionate. And I had done a very poor job of training and onboarding because I assumed okay, we do really, or you know how to do it. Yes, I didn't even hardly train to that. I just assumed a lot. So when I had the tools now to see, what clinicians were struggling, were not converting patients um, to better hearing, I was able to work with them. And when I was able to work with them, I was able to establish goals. And when they didn't, if you have some that don't want to, you know, go by better patient care, like there was no argument. What I was implementing with Acuity was better patient care. It was consistent patient care. The patients, what we were getting was better payments. At that time, I was able to raise treatment costs because we were doing more, and it was no problem. People were paying it, which is wonderful. And you will maybe lose some people who um, don't want to do things the way that you want to do it. And there's you as owners, we put a lot on the line, and not that we're saying this way is the only right way, but it's the right way that I'm doing it at my business. So
And it's scalable.
it's
Uh,
so scalable. Well, yeah, because I was ready to grow again. There was a
yeah,
process.
I want to talk about that a little bit. You look at these, the cost of goods sold goes from 33% to 22 to 24 to 26. Here's something that's interesting for everybody to understand. I was, again, talking to another friend a few weeks ago, and we talked about cost of goods. And his response was, well, are you going to go negotiate better pricing for me? And I'm like, I'm not worried about your pricing. I think that you're paying a fair price from your supplier. You're not charging enough for your hearing aids. Most people think cost of goods, they got to go beat their partner up. That's not what they have to do. Most people, I would guess that everybody on this phone call can charge more for their hearing aids and should in order to get a healthy P&L. And Stacy, you didn't do business with TPAs. You're all private pay. You had a really good relationship with the doctors in your towns. However, um, you did raise your prices. Tell me more about that. Were you surprised at how quickly it was accepted, or was it a problem?
Yeah, no, patients, there were options, and we really, it was surprising because, I'm thinking there's no way. and and I was just given courage, and Acuity has tools, and we put them. The tools were good to look at, very descriptive. It wasn't too much. They were laminated, and we trained the team. Now, remember, at the same time, we're working with the culture. Um, better, happier patients equal happier payments, better payments. So the better, and it all starts with the diagnostic test process. This
Yeah.
has nothing to do with treatment. When a patient comes in, we are rooting for the patient. Um, it was one of the so refreshing. Acuity was helped me to articulate, we're to the team, we're always rooting for the patient. We are not even going to talk about treatment options until we do the best diagnostic test battery on the planet. And then, if appropriate, we will talk about treatment options. And that takes a lot, especially on the clinicians. Like, there's an elephant in the room, but we can address it early on and just say, we don't know what's going on, but you're expressing some difficulties, and we're going to find out. And then, so working on the team culture behind the scenes on just absolute rock star patient care, and because the process is documented and we have the tools to show it to the patient, it makes the presenting treatment options just like a next step. It's no big deal. And there are options for all patients. And we love you no matter what. Like
Right.
there's no selling, and it's all selling. If you're alive on planet Earth, you're selling everything. So I don't shy away from that word. And
Yeah.
it's not waiting till the last minute. So Acuity, their process helped me set it up. So it was very strong on diagnostics. And therefore, when you do that, you have a much easier time, you know,
So
saving the patient. Yeah.
yeah, I look at this and I see this incredible transformation into 2020, going from 139,000 of what may or may not be real profit to $905,000 of real profit. But I'll tell you, my favorite comparison on this chart is 2020 to 2021, because this has nothing to do with better salesmanship. It has nothing to do with price increases, because your total income goes down $13,000. But because of remember when we're on this, all of these different levers that are on this screen, you're pulling those at the same time to where you're able to do $14,000 or $13,000 less business. But because of the way you pulled your levers and paid your people appropriately, you go from 905,000 in profitability to 1.25 million in profitability. That's wonderful, because then that allows you to take a planned approach over the next 3 years and take that capital and invest it in your business. And let me tell you something, as somebody who worked for a hearing aid manufacturer and has been in this business for 40 years, manufacturers are used to being the bank for your growth. This is running your business to where you can fund your own growth. And that is just a wonderful place to be. So, over the next 3 years, investing in footprint, spending some of that capital at 32%, you planned on driving that IBT down with investment. How fulfilling was that, Stacy?
Oh, it was so good because remember, at the end of 2021 now, I'm almost all out of patient care. So my
Yeah.
million and three, four is out of this. And look, I've never paid clinicians as much as I started paying them because of how it was structured at that time. So good in so many ways because I wanted to grow. I felt God put it on my heart to help as many people as possible. And I had been holding back the reins when opportunities were coming up because I just thought, how? And it was like unleashing the reins. We have the plan. I knew I never wanted to be in business without Acuity. So I started talking to them. Hey, why don't you buy some shares in my company? Like, I don't want you to ever go away.
Yeah.
And I was I'm just having so much fun. People were helping. The leadership team I got to spend a lot of time developing my team. And that became my passion. I came to learn I can help a lot more patients by helping all the clinicians who touch all the patients,
Yeah.
and really started to lean into, by that time we are pulling all the levers, and it's
You
just,
became a business owner instead of an employee of your own business.
and
That's
vacation.
wonderful.
And that year I took a 2-week vacation. I just can't even tell you. Um, I can't even tell you the peace of mind. Like I maybe got a couple phone calls and they were me calling the practice manager. Like, is everything okay?
That's super exciting.
Yeah.
And we increased your spend in marketing so that we can get some more good private pay business and rely less and less on the doctors. You don't want to, if you're relying on somebody else to drive your patient inflow, That's a vulnerable place to be. The best thing is to have both of those things, doctor referrals and your own marketing. But
Well,
we want you to spend a healthy mark. And I also want to tell everybody, as we get into the next slide, you will see, oh, by the way, and this year in 2025, the business is trending towards $7.5 million top line revenue and maintaining its 20% growth. And I want everybody to understand that Atlantic subscribes to everything that Acuity has to offer. And you can do business with Acuity on a marketing level, and it might be as little as a few $100s a month, maybe $500 a month. Or you can subscribe to everything that they offer and or we offer, and it's as much as 5% of your business's revenue. We have a sliding scale fee sheet that's based on percentages of your revenue because that's our percentage of effort required and man hours required. So Atlantic Hearing pays Acuity somewhere around 5% of their annual revenue to help manage their business. And this is still the profitability left over. So anything that we do at Acuity to drive profitability in your business, it's profitability after we've been paid. I think that that's an important stipulation. Stacy, is there anything that you'd like to add to this P&L slide as we have 4 minutes left and we're going to go to the next slide?
oh my gosh. No, just, thank you. I love you guys. You've changed my life. Literally life saving. Like when you have those kinds of turnaround and support as owners, we have
That's excellent.
options for the future, for growth, personal options, all kinds of things. So truly from the bottom top of my heart, thank you.
Tell me about you wanted partners for life. How was that wound up? Where's Stacy today?
Amazing. Amazing. Like, like I say, I tricked y'all fair and square, like,
Yeah,
here and to come in because I truly don't ever want to do business without Acuity. And it's just getting better, more resources and um it's I would that's why I scream in a great way at the top of my list to promote y'all anytime I can because it's just been life saving, life changing, patient saving. I mean, incredible.
well, kind of, here's the spoiler alert. Acuity did buy part of Stacy's practice and did become partners with her and now enjoys a good relationship with her as well. Um, I just think it's important to, I love where you said, I just didn't want to ever be without you. Um, as we start to close, um, we have this saying, we say, birds of a feather. Acuity is a long game, and we are not standing at a booth saying we need 50 new customers. There is nothing about us that is urgent, that we approach as urgent. There are things where when we kind of put our hands in the middle and we agree that we're going to do something, um, we are focused on it like a laser because this is something that we are passionate about. And so we want to do business with people that hold those same passions as us. And I think that what we're doing is so good because what we're doing is scalable. It's good for one clinic and it's good for 1,000 clinics. And the materials are there if we're the kind of people that you want to work with. We
Can I
have,
can
yeah,
I
go
just
ahead.
say too that you guys, Acuity offers a free consultation. Everyone should take it. Even if you decide not to work together, you will learn something. Like every time I'm on the phone, every single time I'm learning something from you guys.
That's
So I think that's really nice of you all. I mean, to offer, and I hope everyone takes you up on it. You helped sway me with information, for a new clinic and not this other clinic, based on information that y'all have. Anyway, very good.
Stacy's referring to kind of the initial contact with Acuity. If any of you on this call should call me and say, hey, I want to see what Acuity is all about. We asked really for a day and a half. We like for you to come to Austin because that works for us. And it's good to get you out of your environment and out of your office to really get above your business and start talking about it. And we say, take off your business day to day in the weeds hat and put on your strategy hat. Now, here's something that has happened, Stacy, is we now charge for that because it is valuable. We charge $3,500 for that day and a half. However, everybody that's on this webinar call, we absolutely are waiving that fee for the day and a half. And I would love for everybody that's interested to call me and we can set that up. Stacy, do you have any parting thoughts?
I'm just grateful that you did this, and I know it'll reach those who it's meant to, and everyone on here to share the information. We're, a rising ship raises everyone. So we know that there's plenty of opportunities out there for patients, and I just hope that Steve, you get to work with a lot of these people. It's such, there's a shortage already. So us that are out there need help to grow. I mean, it would be my dream that private practice takes over all of hearing. But anyway, thank you for having me, and thanks for doing this.
Yeah,
and
excellent.
You're a ton of fun. I mean, you guys car karaoke is the best.
I'm not promising car karaoke to everybody, but I am telling you that we can help you thrive and have fun. A lot of people ask me why I work with Acuity, and I'll tell you, I'm working with Acuity because I get to work with people that are passionate about the hearing industry. This is all I've done since I was 18 years old. It's been really Randy's passion his entire professional life. I know it's been Cade's.
Yeah, because you could have retired. You did retire. Like,
I did retire.
This.
But it's all Cade's been focusing on his entire professional life, and Sarah, and so working with and I don't know what else Megan has done, but I know that she's she's become a chief human resource level officer. Capability that she provides. So when you look at all of us, it's so fun for me. My favorite part about this industry that I've had such a wonderful career in is building teams and building relationships. Some of my former teammates are on this call, which I appreciate them being on, but there are people that I love, and I love helping them to achieve their goals. And I think that we can do that. And you have Randy Schornborn, who's been doing this for many, many years and has run hundreds of clinics, and the same thing with Kate. And I've led hundreds of people and built teams. And the truth is, if you're on this phone call, you likely can't afford to hire any of us, but you can afford to hire all of us. And that is really a cool thing, because I think that we're able to have an effect on our customers that is unique in the industry because of the talent pool that's here. And I just encourage everybody to reach out and give us a call. Stacy, thank you for your time and your wisdom and your energy. You're just a wonderful friend, and I appreciate it so much.
Oh, thank you. And just sending everyone here good energy, and I hope that Acuity just keeps growing.
All right. We're going to be doing these webinars. We've been doing them for once a month. And next month, we are going to talk about remarketing. And our special guest will be Sarah Richard. And I hope that everybody that's with us today tells a friend and brings them along to the next one. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.